You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Welcome to Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. Each week, we'll take a deep dive into the world of volatility with in-depth analysis, trading activity reviews, strategy breakdowns, cutting-edge education, and much more. We'll also bring you exclusive conversations with the traders, researchers, and asset managers who are reshaping the volatility landscape. If it involves volatility, then you'll find it on Volatility Views. And now, it's time to take a deep dive into the world of volatility. It's time for Volatility Views.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again for Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. Hot off a fresh and exciting episode of Options Oddities for all of our pro folks out there. Just got that in the can a little bit early. Usually it's after Vol Views. Today it came in hot a little bit early. I will be hopping on a plane a little bit after the show today, so made some sense. Want to make sure all you pro folks out there still getting your Oddities goodness, so check that out, of course, if you couldn't make it live at the new time. It's there for you on the exclusive pro feed because we love you folks out there at the end of the day. Neither rain nor sleet nor slow, no travel will deny you your Options Oddities. If you want to go check that out for yourselves, listeners, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. Once you're there, you'll get access not just to that show, but also the pro Q&A we just did yesterday with the options guy himself, Mr. Brian Overby, as well as nearly 200 other episodes up there. You could really go to town and spend, 200 plus hours of just straight streaming. No bathroom breaks, no eating, no sleeping, just mainlining until you either die or finish the collection. That's our goal. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to get access to all that fun as we go around the horn and see who's joining us on the old program today. First, let's go out to a quiet hamlet in the southern volatility mecca known as Austin, where we are joined once again by the greasiest of meatballs, Mr. Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. Mr. Meatball, welcome back to Vol Views, sir.
Good to be here. Glad to be here and enjoying myself and ready to talk some markets.
Talking to both halves of the Option Pit dynamic duo back to back. Which one's Robin? Which one's Batman?
Like
which one's the yin? Which one's the yang? I don't know. We'll have to find out. But fun stuff nonetheless there, listeners. And also joining us for the first time in a while on Vol Views. We've chatted with him, of course, on the advisors option, including just earlier this week. Check out that episode if you haven't, listeners. But happy to have him back on the advisors option. It has been quite some time. It's our old buddy, the Oracle of New Hampshire himself, Mr. Matt Amberson, the founder over there at ORATS, a.k.a. Options Research and Technology Services, a.k.a. Otto's dad. Mr. Matt, welcome back to the show, sir.
Thanks. Looking forward to the dueling marks, and good to be out here. Volatility Views with is this the first time with a new microphone, Mark?
I think it might be, sir. Sounding deep and lustrous, as always, sir. By the way, I'm getting conflicting reports. You're telling me the Rock Lobster's dodging you. The Rock Lobster just told me you're dodging him, so I don't know who to believe anymore in this he said, she said over there, the dueling borders of Maine versus New Hampshire. I'll let you guys sort that out, though, Mr. Matt, as we keep on rolling right on into the Volatility Review.
It's time to break down the latest developments in the volatility trading world. It's time for the Volatility Review.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Let's get to the Vol Review, the portion of the show where we break down the week that was and indeed still is from a vol trading and trending and analysis and unusual activity, all sorts of fun perspectives. And, you know, coming into the end of the week, it does seem like the extended rally that we've all been kind of living through post-Fed, taking a bit of a hiatus this week. You're seeing the headlines now already. Stocks headed for their worst week since the death of Silicon Valley Bank, et cetera, and so on and so forth. I get it. All these outlets need content, need something to sink their teeth into. We still are demonstrably north of where we were just heading into that Fed announcement. So a couple hundred handles in the S&P, but giving some of that back again this week, hanging out a little bit north of 43.50, about 43.60 right now. So selling off about 0.5%, pretty much across the board, close to 0.5% in the Dow as well, and a little over 0.5% in the NASDAQ. So pretty much 0.5% coming off the top after a long, protracted period of green on the screen. And, you know, people were lamenting that vol was going up a little bit, and the markets were moving up over the course of the past week and a half, 2 weeks. And now we're seeing it going exactly the opposite way. We're seeing vol go down, and the markets continue to go down. So if you like a little bit of vol moving in lockstep with the S&P, then, hey, you've been kind of happy over the past week and two. And for everybody else, you're probably a little bit flummoxed. So let's get into it here on the show. As we kicked off the show, VIX hanging out at a 12 handle. I don't know about you two, Mark and Matt, and maybe the rest of you listeners out there, but when I see a 12 handle in the VIX, I get a little bit nervous. I get some flashbacks to the dark days of 2017. What was so bad about 2017, listeners? Well, for some of you newcomers who weren't in the market back then, you may just sound like another year. But for us here in the markets, it was the year vol went to die. We hit a 12 in VIX, and that was kind of the high for the year, maybe a 13. It was straight down from there, and we got down into the single digits, got into a 9 handle in VIX. Volume died. It was horrible. So no one wants a repeat of that. So when I see this 12 handle showing up again on my VIX screen, I get a wee bit nervous. The hairs on the back of my neck start to stand up. We're down almost a full point from where we were this time last week. When we kicked off the show, we were at about exactly 12.90. Again, puts us down about 0.9 of a point. VVIX, the vol of vol, also down. It was at about actually an 89 when we kicked off the show. That puts it down about 4 points from where it was this time last week. And good old VOLQ, the NASDAQ vol, at about a 1780, down about 0.2 of a point. Of course, we are coming off the heels of a truncated holiday week, about to head into another one with the July 4th holiday pretty soon. So seasonally not a robust period for volatility anyway. I get that. I've been around the block a few times. It just triggers some bad memories for me when I see a 12 handle out there in VIX. Let's go around the horn. Let's see if I'm alone. Maybe others have the same flashbacks of low vol that I do. Let's start in our guest seat. Mr. Matt, sir, we'll start with you. Been a while since you've been on the show. What are your thoughts when you see this 12 handle popping up in VIX? Do you get the same kind of night sweats and flashbacks that I do, sir?
Yeah, I remember that well. But another thing to remember is, we do a lot of back testing over here at ORATS, and when the vol's low, the market doesn't get the implied as low as they should for the historical volatility and for the movement. So there's still a lot of opportunity out there. So we're releasing very shortly a back tester with right now 48 million back tests that you could sort through. But one of the things that it does is you could set the volatility, like is it in a low range for the VIX or a low range for the just implied percentile, and be able to see what strategies work well. A lot of these strategies work, very, very well in these kind of low vol environments. So there's still a lot to do, even if the vol is low. I know it seems like the premiums aren't that great, but there are some strategies, there are some techniques, there are some ways to play it. So I don't have the sweats that you do, Mark, but I look for the opportunities there.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe that was just a rough year for us out there. But intriguing stuff nonetheless. Let's keep on rolling. Let's go out to the Southern Volatility Mecca known as Austin. Mr. Meatball, sir, I ask you the same question. Are you feeling the same night terrors and night sweats that I get when you see a 12 handle in VIX? And what else is catching your eye in the world of vol this week, sir?
Yeah, no, I mean, I do not. I think that it is, this is something I think Andrew and I have been talking about, was heading our way for a while. Heading into the July 4th, I would not be surprised if we broke 12.
You have been throwing a 12 handle into your crystal ball prediction a few times. I will give you
yes. And the market it's a bull market. We're just going straight up. You cannot stop this thing. And they tried, but the interesting thing is that just when you look at how we've moved intraday relative to what they're actually charging you for options on the S&P, everything looks dirt cheap, because we are in fact continuing to get movement on an intraday basis. But when you use a model like, let's say, Garch, then you see volatility fall out of bed. So, what I think happened, and part of the reason why VIX has come off, is we had this nice rally. Call buying really held up VIX as we rallied, and it got kind of overstretched. People got a little worried, and the next thing you know, we are down. We've seen the market basically down 4 out of the last 5 days. We've given away 80 points, something like that. And VIX is more than $1 lower than where it was at the beginning of this. And the reason being is that this was, a sell-off was kind of needed, but nobody perceives this to be some sort of complete market meltdown. So, yeah, we're now looking at a VIX that's now down on the day. We're trading 1281, and don't be surprised if next week, heading into the long weekend, we see, heading into July 4th, we see the VIX gods frown upon volatility.
Get me nervous with this 11 handle now, sir. That's the beginning of
a
road to nowhere.
It's coming. But the other thing is this we're going to continue to see. I mean, S&P daily options continue to increase in volume every single day. So the Volpocalypse 2.0 is actually assisted by volatility going lower and lower and lower, because that premium grab is just going to seem too easy. Selling puts too easy, vol too low. The next thing you know, whap. That's what I do think sets up. I think end of July, early August could be really fun.
That's true. We do have that little bright ray of sunshine to offset the Volmageddon sucking down, because that's the other side of the coin, right? Vol continues to erode. We would traditionally see options volume go the way of the dodo, the way we did, I should say, back in 2017. But we do have this new flavor of options trading, this 0-day thing, which is putting up well north of 1 million contracts a day just in the S. So that could maybe offset things. I'm curious, what do you folks think? Looks like our chat agrees with me. We've got Options Queen. We know she's prescient. She's ahead of the game. She says the 12 VIX is scary to me too, Mark. Well, hey, good to see great minds think alike. Nichols says he agrees too. So some of our savvy chatters also getting a little bit nervous down at these levels here. But intriguing stuff. As they both point out, there are still opportunities. So from a trading perspective, it's not the end of the world. I'm just looking bigger picture and what we've seen in the past when we kiss these levels in vol. And usually it wasn't the best for the overall options market as a whole. Let's keep on rolling. Let's get on out to the land of the futures. Obviously, we saw the June future roll off the board since our last show, listeners. Now we got July slotting into that pole position, taking a bit of a shellacking this week as well, down about 0.75 of a point from last week. The AUG future slotting into the number 2 spot here, down a little over 0.5 point on the week. Mr. Matt, if you have any other thoughts about maybe how 0-day could perhaps offset some of the volume we will inevitably lose with vol down at these levels, have at it. And then B, what are your thoughts on what we're seeing out there on the vol surface this week, sir?
Yeah, the vol surface, it's contango. And, just to echo what Mark was saying, the calls really were buoying the market. what happens then is our slope goes way down, and it's been coming back since about mid-June, but it's still at pretty low levels, the low third as we look at it. I think this is a strange market, but there's so much money out there sloshing around, and there's so many passive investors, and I think that with AI and all the things, they're more and more putting their money into more kind of computer managed funds that are buying when the volatility falls. So the market goes up, and that leads the volatility to fall, and then the market goes up and leads the volatility to fall. So that's the biggest thing I think right now. And I think also a lot of the people that are wanting to sell, wanting to protect themselves, are already there. So there's a lot of people that have done that. So when the market goes down, they have puts. They're recovering. It's not a big shock. And kind of the last thing, with the VIX, term structure, I think that, it's more in kind of a normal look. But I really do think that the zero DTEs are having a huge effect. I've said since the beginning, a lot of people said, "Oh, we're going to see a vol apocalypse because of these." I said, no, it's going to, it's very friendly for market makers, and they could get out of risky systematic positions that they're in, on the 0 day, and there are more people trading 0 and 1 day, so they have some time to do that, and so I think it's very much muting the volatility. So, and I think we're seeing this out there in the markets right now. So, that's how I think it all ties together, Mark.
Intriguing stuff. Mr. Meatball, same question for you, sir. What's catching your eye now that June has rolled off the board and July taking the front spot out there on the vol surface this week?
I mean, I have a, pretty normal spread between the cash and the June future. Actually, it's a little wide. It's about It's about $3. That's really wide. But we're heading into the weekend. So there's still some, if you want to be short options or short vol, there's a lot of room for July to run lower relative to where we are. The rest of the curve, it looks pretty normal. You could argue maybe the AUG-SEP spread seems a little wide, but July and August are still trading at nice premiums to the cash index. But it is a nice contango telling us, vol could be going lower and lower and lower.
Music to my ears. 11 handle in VIX. It is music to my ears, listeners. We don't just bring Matt on to pontificate about 0 day and how low can VIX go. That's all fun. But we also bring him on because he's the keeper of all the cool earnings data that we're giving you folks throughout the week. We created a segment on another show, The Advisor's Option, where we go deep into it. Haven't had a chance to do it here on this show, so I thought it'd be kind of fun. Let's check in with a real quick earnings volatility report.
Earnings announcements can move markets, but what is the options market telling us about upcoming earnings events? Let's find out with the Earnings Volatility Report.
Oh, there it is. Mr. Matt, how's it feel hearing your music on VolView, sir?
That's exciting.
Intriguing.
I was going to say, I go, wait a second. Are they doing this without me?
Crossing the streams, baby. Mixing things up, having all sorts of fun. But yeah, if you haven't listened to the Advisor's Option in a while, we go deep on that. That's only once a month. You don't get a chance to do it here on this show. But it is obviously a big driver of everything that we're talking about here on the show in terms of what's going on the earnings volatility front. If you want to check out all these reports for yourselves, listeners, you know where to go, theoptionsinsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab, and you can go down the rabbit hole of madness that is earnings volatility. Kind of coming into the tail end of the season now. Not a ton on the docket for this week. We did have some names you've heard of. FedEx, Darden Restaurants, the Meatball's favorite. Can't get enough of Darden Restaurants. We had CarMax today. So still some names popping off. But really, the lion's share of the season is now in the rearview mirror. If you've been listening to us for a while, reading our website for a while, we've been running these reports for a while, pre-pandemic. So we have a long-term average running on these seasons right now, and that average has ticked up over the last few cycles. It was pretty anemic in the height of the pandemic. nobody cared about earnings vol. So we were returning about 80 cents on the dollar in terms of straddles and volatility. It's ticked up since then to about 96%. That means if every name moved as much as their straddle during the cycle, that would be 100%. So 96% is slight underperformance. But Mr. Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, you and a lot of other people were really looking for this cycle to be just apocalyptic. We really were going to see maybe the starts of the recession, the impact on all these higher rates, all these things we've been talking about for a while. A lot of people thought this was really going to come home to roost this cycle, and we were going to see it play out in the earnings vol. And so far, at least, Mr. Matt, we have not seen that, I should say, sir. Well, what were your thoughts on this cycle we saw so far compared to your expectations?
Yeah, I mean, earnings are getting more important. Definitely underperformed as far as what I thought. You're right. So what do pontificators do when they're slightly wrong? They push it out to the next earnings cycle. I think July is going to be a fun one. A lot of people, tend to go to sleep around July, but I could remember, I'm sure Mark can too, a lot of very volatile July earnings. So, I think we're going to see some more out there. And you're right. We look at the earnings season. We break it down into basically 6 weeks. We're past the 6 weeks there. So, we're looking at July now. We still got a couple, as you say. Today was a fun day because, you got Smith & Wesson moving 100%, doubling their earnings expected move today. So they had a huge move. And CarMax, so the cars and guns. I mean, what gets more American than that? We had CarMax come out extremely, a lot of trading going on. Our volume report, CarMax is 6 times their normal daily volume, up about 10% today. The stock is in CarMax. Some people got some, we're looking to profit from that big move. They had some cheap calls on, and because we tracked in our volume report, we tracked when the open interest went on. It went on about a week and a half ago. Now they're taking it off. So, there's still some fun ones out there. Just because the bulk isn't there, it doesn't mean that there's not earnings going on. And yeah, we got Carnival Airlines, Manu, Manchester United. There's a lot going on with that, with buyout talks and et cetera. So there's a few out there. Nike next week. But yeah, by and large, we're looking forward to next season's earnings, and I think that whereas this one kind of was a break even for the straddle owners, I think next season those dollars spent will do well for the holders. Mark.
Yeah, will be fascinating to watch. Again, listeners, you can get all those reports over there, theoptionsinsider.com. It's a 4-pack of reports we give you folks for free because we like you. We give you the earnings move. So those are what's coming up for the week, earnings move results. So stuff that happens that same day, we break it down for you there as well, including we have Darden restaurants in there now. And then, of course, we have the earnings season, which breaks down the whole season, which right now, again, our long-term average is 96% this season, actually ticking down a little bit in the last revision, down to about 93% right now. So intriguing stuff to be found out there. Then, of course, the earnings trades reports, where we are still monitoring quite a few long straddles and long calendars for your earnings trading pleasure. Mr. Meatball, I know you like slinging a lot of single names. I'm sure you were very excited about Smith & Wesson. You have to get a Smith & Wesson, I think. Don't they give you one when you move into the state there in Texas? And then what else is catching your eye out there in the earnings vol front these days, sir?
It's going to be an interesting earnings. FedEx earnings earlier this week were abysmal. But, I think that there's only 7 stocks whose earnings really matter, right? The 7 stocks that are carrying this market's water.
The uber sexy and 7.
When we get there, that is going to be when earnings season really gets exciting.
Those are the ones that do carry the water for the rest of the market. You are correct. I had an interesting chat with the folks at FTSE Russell yesterday. You can check it out on TWIFO. If you're on the pro side, you already got it. It was early on your pro feed there as well. And they kind of mentioned that we are in somewhat historically unprecedented times in terms of just the stratification of the market. These top 6, 7, whatever names you want to talk about, 10 names carrying everything else. This is really unprecedented era that we are in. So intriguing stuff. They would know. They have been crunching the data out there in terms of the stratification between large and small cap stocks for quite some time. So intriguing stuff. It is, of course, Russell Recon time. So check that one out, listeners, if you are so inclined, if you haven't already. And then, of course, let's get on out now to the big VIX mothership. Not looking quite as big today. The ADV, 836,000 contracts, so dropping about 14,000. Still robust, 800,000 contracts a day in VIX. Nothing to sneeze at. We've seen it far lower than that not too long ago. So still robust, coming in a little bit. That's to be expected. We are heading into another holiday. We are coming out of the heels of another holiday, so a holiday is almost back-to-back here. Always going to have an impact on volume. Today, seeing that impact a little bit as well. Folks may be heading out for the weekend early. Only about 250,000 contracts on the tape right now for VIX. Compare that to recent weeks where we've seen easily 600,000-800,000 by this time, if not close to 1 million. So not a heck of a lot on the tape today. But let's see what's going on out there in the top positions. Now that we've seen June roll off the board, it has reshuffled the deck a bit out there in terms of the top 10. And guess what, listeners? If you were surprised at how few puts there were before in the top 10 for VIX, well, then get ready to be surprised all over again, because there were only 2 for pretty much the last month. There's been 8-2 calls over puts in our top 10. There are now 0, a big goose egg. All of the puts are gone in our top 10. We're at a 12 handle in the VIX and not a single put to be found in the top 10. Intriguing stuff. I get it. If you're blowing through strikes, people could already have taken them off. The problem is they never really put them on for that much size. There's only a couple of handles, a couple of puts that really made it into our top 10 at all. So just intriguing stuff out there. It costs you 184,000 contracts to break into the top 10 in VIX land. That gets you to the SEP 35. So already you're kicking it off all the way out to SEP. Number 9, 196,000 of the SEP 45, so obviously some SEP vertical action. Number 8, also 196,000 of the August 20s. Interesting. AUG 20s. Number 7, 203,000 of the AUG 25s. Number 6, 220,000 of the July 25s. Number 5, 233,000 of the July 21s. Number 4, about 250,000 of the AUG 60s, 60s. Number 3, 266,000 of the July 22s. Number 2, 290,000 of the July 23s. And the number 1 size position, now that the June 30-40 has gone the way of the dodo, spoiler alert, didn't really work out, listeners. 336,000 of the September 60 calls. That was part of that 1x3, I believe it was, out there not too long ago. So intriguing stuff out there. Also worth noting, we talked about the kind of tail end of our saga with these June 15 puts. That is obviously now over. They have gone the way of the dodo. It was a great trade. We talked about it many times. Mark and I both had a lot of fun with that one. You know who, interestingly enough, doesn't seem like they had a ton of fun with it in terms of taking money off the table, was our initial friend who bought those for 9 cents all the way back in October of last year. VIX at the time was almost $30, 29.61. It's 8 months later. And nothing. We saw a lot of blocks go up out there, but they were all additive. People kept piling into these puts towards expiration. There really wasn't a moment when the OI came in to any substantial degree. This person kicked it off back in October. That was the first really of any positioning back on the June 15 put. So it's been fascinating to watch. It's like we did see a little bit go up the day before expiration. They took off about 22,000 of them. But outside of that, that's really it. They were adding and piling into these June 15 puts the entire time, which is somewhat intriguing. Mr. Meatball, does that surprise you that it seems like our friend was very early, very prescient, but never really got out of these puts, sir?
Yeah, what ended up being his final take on these? What was the settlement price? He probably did pretty darn well.
He did well.
Hang on to him.
He definitely did well. It's just interesting that never even a whiff of getting the heck out of Dodge when it hit 20 or 50 or anything like that.
He was long and strong, man.
Yeah, he rode them all the way. It's like our friend 50 Cent. He just rode those calls all the way to the upside as well and got out almost at the max level. So I guess there's something to be said for just sticking to your guns on these bad boys. But intriguing stuff. Mr. Matt, were you familiar with this saga we talked about on the show a few times over the last few weeks? These June 15 puts starting all the way back in October of last year. And apparently this person who gobbled up 100,000 of them for 9 cents rode them all the way to the end, sir. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit on the advisors options. I like these kind of way far out of the money type trades. I think they're undervalued in the VIX. I like the calls. Did well there, and the puts are working too. I mean, you told a story. You had some puts on and forgot about them, and all of a sudden you saw green, and they were there for you. So I love to have these little way out of the money garbage puts and calls on. And again, if it's too expensive, sometimes you could do it with a butterfly and then try to close the middle if it moves away from it. So you could lower your costs for a lot of units that way, or get a vertical for cheap, or a calendar for cheap. It's always great to have these little options on, Mark. And before you know it, the paradigm has changed and you're close to the money.
Yeah, they turn from little options into not so little anymore, which is always intriguing. You're a big fan of the garbage. You're Mr. Garbage VIX calls and garbage SPY puts. So they were certainly garbage when we first started buying them. They were definitely in your garbage definition, Matt, and turned out not so much. Intriguing stuff out there, listening. Would you have ridden these all the way to oblivion, listeners, if you had these? I'm curious. Hit us up. Let us know. Did you ever piggyback? I know some of you folks did, and you were laughing all the way to the bank. Others were just enjoyed watching the saga. Either way, it was intriguing to watch. Also intriguing to see how people put these on and then maybe don't take them off, which is always intriguing as well. Let's get out to the paper. Like we said, not a ton lighting it up today. About 250,000 contracts on the tape as of right now. The big dog today, almost 31,000 of the AUG 40s. Number 2, 25,000 of the SEP 22s. Number 3, 18,000 of the SEP 25s. Number 4, about 15,000 of the AUG 23s. And rounding out top 5 today, 10,000 of the July 13 puts. Is that the strike we were talking about on the show last week?
I love the July 13.
I was going to say, I think I was
long a bunch of those.
I think I bought some of those. We were talking about them on the show last week, were we not?
Yeah, we were. I'm long several hundred of them, and I'm mad I didn't buy more.
Pretty sure I bought some to kind of have fun with it on the.
Why not? Right? If they want to, if the VIX is trading 13 and they're willing to sell you a put for 10 cents, why wouldn't you want to own that? Why? I mean, it's 10 cents.
Already up a whopping 50 cents, or 50%, I should say. Out there
yeah,
right
no.
now, so.
I mean, I bought some July 15 puts. I bought the 13 puts, and up nicely on all of them. Vol is just getting decimated. It's unbelievable.
What you tune into Vol Views for, all of our crappy put recommendations that continue to pay off. Yes, I did pick up some of those. That's right. Yes, so fun times out there. Sometimes we have too many accounts to track everything we got going over here on the show, listeners. Let's keep on rolling. Let's go out to Thursday, 829,000 contracts on the tape. But that was not the big dog day of the week, though. Stay tuned for the big dog day. The big dog on a pretty active day, though, Thursday, 112,000 of the July 22s, followed by 55,000 of the July 23s, 54,000 of the July 16 puts, so maybe, and 50,000 of the July 20. So maybe it looks like could be a risk averse. I'll have to go dig in to see, because that volume lines up pretty nicely. And then rounding out the top 5 on Thursday, 44,000 of the July 16 calls. Wednesday, 717,000. So you can see why the ADV slipped a little bit this week. The big dog on Wednesday, 52,000 of the July 23s, followed by 46,000 of the July 16 puts, 40,000 of the October 45s, 4-5. Interesting strike there. Number 4, 39,000 of the July 21s. And rounding out the top 5 on Wednesday, 30,000 pretty much exactly of the August 50s, 5-0s. That our old friend 50 Cent, does he have to pay 50 cents? Is it the 50 strike? I'll leave it up to you to determine who was behind those. Tuesday, the big day of the week, kind of making up for lost time a little bit because, of course, we were closed on Monday, listeners. Almost 1.4 million contracts on the tape for Tuesday. So it seems like all of Monday's volume just got slotted into Tuesday. The big dog on Tuesday, 93,000 of the July 21s, followed by number 2, 62,000 of the June 14 puts. Interesting. All the way out to the 14s, listeners. Number 3, 58,000 of the July 15 puts. Number 4, 56,000 of the July 14 puts. And rounding out the top 5 on a fairly active Tuesday, 52,000 of the June 15 calls. Our friend, the once and future Dr. VIX's favorite strike. I know he was working a bunch of those to sell. I don't know where he ended up getting them off. I guess we'll have to find out. Mr. Matt, same question for you, sir, as we talk about this intriguing slate of volume out here in VIX options this week. Anything catching your eye, sir, on our truncated holiday week?
Yeah, I mean, it does look just, depressed. We have these signals that watch the implied volatility and watch the VIX. And you think it can't go any lower, but, as it goes lower, again, people are piling into the market. As they pile into the market, the VIX goes down. So we're in a loop right now. But, as Mark alluded to before, when something breaks there, it's going to go fast. So, when everyone's going for the exits, it's going to get very crowded and things are going to move quickly. But until we get there, we're still looking at our signals. Our signals are weakened a little bit, but still, it still looks like, the VIX is kind of buoying the market and the market's buoying the VIX. So as long as that continues, I think we're in for more of the same. I think it could even be until earnings start. And like Mark said, there's 5 stocks that are driving the market. So do we have to wait for them? I'm not sure, but it looks kind of tame right now, Mark.
Intriguing stuff. Our chat saying they also bought some of those 13 puts in July. So there we go. The more the merrier out there. Mr. Meatball, in addition to your love affair with downside puts in July, anything else catching your eye this week in the VIX options landscape, sir?
We had some big buyers of calls over the last couple of days. It's nice to see you do have some call trading today. Today, 60,000 of the July 20s. Looks like you've got some August 40s going up, some Sep 22s. So there is 75,000 of the July 20 call, 80,000 of the July 20 calls. Yeah, 80,000. So there's. At least people are stepping in and buying some, really inexpensive protection. VVIX in the 80s, VIX at sub 13. If you're long, it is not expensive to protect yourself here.
It's funny you should just talk about that because you're right. The today's volume just gapped up by about 100,000 contracts, and it's because someone just came in and scooped 100,000 of the July 20s. They paid 60 cents.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? There's more. Yeah, you're right. It was 100,000.
Yeah.
They bought a bunch.
They bought a bunch of those.
Cents.
Because I was just breaking it down. It was just $250,000 a few minutes ago. So already adding 100,000. You like those, listeners? July 20s for 60 cents. If past his prologue, Vol is just kind of going here to die.
Could that be our friend?
It's a little expensive for him. It's 60 cents. It's not 50. That would be interesting, though, if that shows you where 50 cents is hanging out now at the 20 strike.
That's cheap. For 60 cents, it's a little near dated for him as well.
Yeah, that's too close to home, I think.
60 cents for the 20 puts? Sure. Or the 20 calls? Sure.
Yeah, Mr. Matt, you like these 100 grand of the 20 calls for 60 cents? It's not that long out, though. It's only July. Are you a fan of these?
Actually, that didn't sound that good to me.
Yeah.
There's some spreads and some other things that look a little bit tastier. It seems like it's going to be tough to get there. If you look at the chart of the VIX today, it's just flatlining. It's crazy. So, I like buying that stuff. It's a little rich for me. That sounds, I know, kind of funny, but I'm buying 10 cent, 20 cent way out of the money. And playing it that way.
Yeah, I'm the vol buyer in our crystal ball game all the time, and I think I'm kind of with you. These might be a little bit of a bridge too far, just because they're July. I don't know if we can really hit there, but obviously we can. But just given past his prologue right now, vol having a hard time getting out of its own way. Back to the 20 handle by July expiration, paying a fairly juicy 60 cents for the privilege. That's a 110 vol on that strike. They ain't giving those away there, listeners. So intriguing stuff. Yeah, I don't know if I come down on the super favorable side. Listeners, what do you guys think? And gals, I'm looking at you, Options Queen. What do you think of these? I'm curious. Again, interesting to see that big print going up right as we're talking about it. Let's go out here to another thing that keeps going up. So next time I see our buddy, the once in future and now present Dr. VIX, forget about my ill-gotten gains on those June 15 puts. He's buying dinner because all of his freaking SVIX. This thing keeps hitting a new all-time high. literally every time I talk about it. It's just ridiculous. We thought it was crazy when it hit a 17 handle not too long ago, threatening a 27 handle right now, 26.75 right now, just a little bit off its 52-week high that it just kissed recently, about almost $27, 26.98. So this thing continues to print money, at least for all you long it, up about 1.25. I know I've heard from some of you who were doing his favorite trade. I think Russell is out now too, because he, maybe not fully out, but he likes to overwrite these. I think he's been called away. A lot of you have been called away because this move has been just amazing to the upside. So I heard some of you lamenting you're out at like the 17 strike and 20 strike. I feel your pain. I hear you. At the end of the day, you're still making money, so it's not the worst thing. But yeah, you left a little bit on the table. I feel you there. But intriguing stuff, just how much this thing can continue to go up, listeners, is every time we think this is it, this is the apex, it's got another couple of bucks in it. So not the time to load up on puts, I guess, at least not yet. In terms of volume, putting up some numbers today, 2,000 contracts on the tape today. The ADV also moving in the right direction. It's about 1,600. That's up a couple of hundred from our last show as well. So seems like it's starting to trend in the right direction. All they need to do now is add some freaking weeklies, and we could see some real numbers out. I get it. It's hard to add more options if there's not enough liquidity in the existing ones. I get it, but I think that would be a demonstrable benefit to this product out there. In terms of what's trading out there today in a good old SVIX, the big dog, are the July 20s. Everyone likes the July 20 strike today. I don't know what's going on. 711 of those going up today as well. So that's the big dog in SVIX. In terms of the top size positions, it's the other way. It's the July 8 puts. I hate to break it to that person, probably a buyer. I'll have to go look and see, but 2,200 of those, that's the top position. I don't think those are going to come to pass. If that does, man, what does that say about what's going on in the market right now? Number 2, 1,200 of the July 27s, and number 3, about 1,200 as well of the July 27 puts. So a lot of action on the 27 strike, which is now the at the money strike as well. So intriguing stuff. Mr. Matt, you and I have talked about SVIX before, but it's been a while. Are you a fan of this product, and are you as amazed as the rest of us at its continued upside, sir?
I'm a fan of. It was trading 14 in what was it, March, and now it's 20, almost 27. I'm a fan of. I mean, you know me. I only put a very small amount of trading in these types of instruments. Like I said, you know, I have a lot of clients, and I would visit them, and they would say, they had figured out some of these exchange traded vol instruments, much more than I would want to get into it. So I tend to stay away from these, but this looks pretty sweet, Mark. So I'm glad that you had some people on and they called it, but I tend to stay away from this type of thing.
Been quite the move out here. Mr. Meatball, have you been playing in the gift that keeps on giving to the upside? That is SVIX, sir.
I have. I've been long it since like 12. It's a great way to buying this thing when vol pops is actually an excellent way to try and time a bottom without really timing a bottom. Because when it gets that low, it's not just going to go poof, and you can ride this thing higher. I mean, it is just fascinating watching this thing crawl higher. It's an inverse of VXX, and VXX was $50 a few weeks when it last reverse split, and now is 28. So it's got some upside here, folks.
You're just slinging the underlying. Would you get out with some call overwriting? Would you just dump the stock?
Oh, no, I mean, I what I've done is, when it stretches far enough, I sell the stock and buy calls.
Oh, a little swap, the old swap action. Interesting
yeah,
stuff.
It's stock replacement. Yeah, absolutely.
You're the inverse of Mr. Rhodes, who's buying stock and then dumping calls. All right, let's go out to the sibling product out here. Let's go to UVIX. Continues to go the way of the dodo, hanging out at a 5, down half a point. Today, 9,000 contracts on the tape. The ADV is 11,000. That's kind of honest. Not a lot to talk about here. The big position out there, 2,500 of the June end of month 5 calls. So those go out in about a week. That is the at the money strike right now. We'll see. Past his prologue, we'll be somewhere in the 4 handle by this time next week, and those 5 calls won't be looking great. Paper probably buying those, but you never know out there. Let's get out to where the fun is right now, listeners. Listen, the product we used to demean and just say we had no use for, now back, the thing's already fallen out of bed. I love it. It's UVXY because the split is in, listeners. Yes, we've been talking about, man, this $2.05 level is for the birds. They heard us. They finally, after months of lamenting, they came back in and reverse split it. It went live today. It is wreaking havoc with all of my systems. You might be saying the same problem, listeners. A lot of my platforms just cannot show me any options data on UVXY right now. This reverse split just kind of gumming up the works for everything. I've tried multiple platforms. It does not want to seem to show me anything because we are back at about a 20 handle, 10-for-1 reverse split, listeners. I obviously would have liked more. I would have liked 15 or 20-to-1, but c'est la vie. We are just breaking a little bit below 20 right now, 1996, so intriguing. I'd say you can go in, get some trades off in UVXY, but it might be a little challenging given the nature of the data today. Mr. Matt, you're a data guy, so what are your thoughts on this reverse split in UVXY, and does it make the product more attractive to you, sir, as a result?
Yeah, I have a lot of sympathy and empathy for platforms that have to deal with this. I'm seeing the same thing there. It's difficult to follow. We do a lot of back testing, and what we'll do in our back test is just get out the day of or the day before the split and get in the day after, just because there's just so much. It just wreaks havoc with these 10-to-1s, and again, it's who wants to have those options hanging around, after you have a reverse split like this on your books. It's hard to manage. A lot of platforms don't handle them that well. You can't see your risk, et cetera. So I have some empathy for the folks that are trying to make a platform, especially when you have something like UVXY come, Mark.
Meatball, same question for you, sir. Are you more intrigued now that UVXY is back at a somewhat more intriguing level? Again, it was a bit of an anemic split, so we're going to be doing this song and dance again probably in a couple of months. But does this make you and your crazies in your pit chat more intrigued, sir?
Well, what do you think, Mark? You think we'd rather trade UVXY when it's $20 or UVXY when it's
You
$2?
loved it when it was like threatening the two-handle. That was your favorite trade, I thought, out there.
No, I'm excited. I think they're not going to list the new options until Monday. But when they do, I'm going to be diving in. That's my plan.
Yeah, so if you were hoping, listeners, to get out there and sling yourself a little bit of UVXY, get back in the action there after probably taking an extended hiatus from this product for the last couple of months, like the rest of us here, then you have to wait a little bit longer. They're teasing us here. They do the reverse split, but you can't really get at the options yet. So unfortunately, a little bit more patience required out there in UVXY, even though finally, listeners, we have what we've been lamenting about for months out here. Let's get on out to our final name out here in the vol ETP landscape. VXX giving up a little bit more juice this week, 26.25, down 1.25 from this time last week. So VXX and UVXY now within spitting distance of each other. 79,000 contracts on the tape today. The ADV 66,000, up about 2,000. The big position out there right now in VXX. Remember we said last week there's a lot of these pre-split adjusted stuff that still needs to go the way of the dodo. Most of that is now gone. The big position out there, 17,000 of the AUG 22 puts. Interesting. Kind of like those, but intriguing stuff out there. Mr. Matt, you haven't been on Vol Views with us in a while. Probably the last time we chatted with you on this show was around the time that Barclays was doing all their nonsense and this product was just circling the drain. Since then, obviously, it seems like it's starting to perform as advertised again. What are your thoughts on this product, or have you kind of washed your hands of it?
Yeah, and again, it makes it difficult to backtest on some of these products where they're changing some of the contract specifications, et cetera. So again, I don't trade a lot of these products. I like to hear Mark talk about it because he's much more into it. We're doing tons of backtests, and again, I don't really trust the backtest going forward on some of these where they change the contract. So it's difficult to monitor, Mark.
It is, Mr. Meatball. I know you've been a little bit more of a fan of these. You still slinging some downside in VXX, sir?
Yeah, I'm currently along some puts as we speak. I think you're going to see VXX sub 25 when we're talking next Friday.
Past his prologue, that is indeed the case. As we keep on rolling, get some of you on here, a little bit of the old volatility voicemail.
It's time to share your thoughts and opinions with your fellow volatility traders. It's time to check the volatility voicemail. Make your voice heard by dialing 779-669-4VOL. Posting a comment on the optionsinsider.com, sending an email to questions@theoptionsinsider.com, or posting your questions to twitter.com/options. or facebook.com/theoptionsinsider.
All right, let's go out to the live chat. We got an interesting question from Nichols. We were just talking about SVIX maybe needing to add some weeklies. That'd certainly be nice. Nichols wants to know, and also SVIX maybe being top heavy here. Is it time to fade it or not? Nichols wants to know, what would you rather buy here? Some out of the money VIX calls or out of the money SVIX puts? So obviously going on a little bit of that vol reversal train, VIX popping, SVIX coming in. Which way would you rather go? I know which way I'd rather go, but I want to go around the horn and get everyone else's opinion first. Let's go out to Matt as our guest. Mr. Matt, you say you don't really play a lot in some of these vol ETPs, so I'm guessing you'd prefer to play a vol pop in VIX options. Is that the case, sir?
Yep, I do the VIX calls, but happy to hear what Mark has to say about it.
Mr. Meatball, same question for you. Which way you going if you had to play a little bit of a vol pop? You going some straight VIX calls, or you maybe going the SVIX put route, sir?
Well, I mean, I'm definitely not going SVIX put route. If we're trying to hedge against a VIX pop, you want to use VIX. If we're in the middle of a VIX pop, you're better off. I really like the ETPs because of the dynamic nature and the way you're able to kind of get in and out of those. So that's usually the way I play, is if we're in the middle of a VIX pop and I think we're going to continue to see some movement, then I'm going to jump into like a VXX or a UVXY or a UVIX. If I'm anticipating a VIX pop, then VIX is the much better answer because of the stickiness of those strikes. You don't have the same kind of decay away from your hedge that you get with these ETPs.
Yeah, I'm going to go VIX 9 times out of 10 in that scenario for a variety of reasons, what the ones Mark just laid down. Also, just straight liquidity. You're talking a couple of thousand contracts on a good day in SVIX and no weeklies versus 800 plus thousand contracts in VIX. You can just get off more of what you want to get off. You can get out much easier. You don't have to kind of wear your trades and work them and hit bids and lift offers to get out, which you still have to do kind of in SVIX. So, yeah, I'm hard-pressed to see a scenario where I'm going to dive in to the SVIX puts. But a good question nonetheless there, Nichols, as we keep on rolling right on into the crystal ball.
It's time to peer into the future and reveal what the volatility gods hold in store. It's time to look into the crystal ball.
All right, you guys are already getting your crystal ball guesses in. I have to look away. I don't want to be colored by your live guesses out there in the chat. We're still shy of a 13 handle, about 1290 in VIX land. A spoiler alert, none of us had a 12 handle last week. It was myself and the Meatball on the show. I had a 1460, obviously no joy there. Meatball a little bit closer at a 1331 is palindromic nonsense as usual. So no joy for either of us on the panel here last week. Looking at some of the listeners, no 12 handles in you guys either. Obviously, our producers will go through the full list. They just surfaced some of you live folks here for me, but intriguing stuff. So, Mr. Matt, because none of us won last week, you get the dubious honor of going first, sir. What are you feeling for this time next week on the vol front, sir?
I think we're in a bull market, agreeing with Mark on that, but I think that we're in a little bear phase. So I think we're going to get vol pop. I think we're going to get up to about 13.4. So
I love we're in a vol pop is now 1340. That's where we are. That's explosion of upside in VIX. Settle in, listeners. Volmageddon coming 1340 here. I'm it's no secret I like a little bit of upside usually on this show. I was thinking somewhere around a 13 handle. I'll let Mark go last because he was closer than me this week. So I don't hate where you are, Matt, but I will give you some breathing room out here. Of course, we are heading. It's going to be a holiday coming up as well, so it's hard to see how much. Is that a weird day next week? The 4th's on a Tuesday, so intriguing stuff there. I don't know how much that we're going to have coming out exactly by our showtime next week. That's the question. Ooh, man, I'm going to say it. I don't like saying this at all, but I'm going to say 1260, so a little bit below where we are right now. And I put that for Mark. I should put that for me. There we go. So, I don't like saying a 12 handle because I'm just speaking it into existence, but c'est la vie. I cannot deny the vol guys. Mr. Meatball, what do you got? You got a 1260 to 1340. You got a pretty big range, or you want to go outside of that?
No, I'm with both of you. I think we're going to be down on the week and down for vol again. I'm actually looking at that 40, 30, 20 level mark. And, we didn't talk about this, but we're coming to the end of the quarter. JP Morgan has their big hedge they need to roll, and they're currently short like 60,000 of the 4320 calls. What can you imagine a scenario where somehow the market manages to get right to about 4320 next week?
That would be awesome.
Yet vol continues to die. I mean, that would just be absolutely insane, wouldn't it?
We've already seen that recently, so I wouldn't surprise me that nothing surprises me anymore doing this show. I've become a jaded bastard doing this show.
I know. So I'm going to say 1221.
1221 for the Meatballs palindromic nonsense. Looking here really quickly, we got 1180 on Nichols. He's fading the 12 handle. Wow. Option God 1240. A lot of 12 handles coming in here. Where's I don't see. I thought Option Queen guessed. I'll look and see. Oh no, she guessed 1230, 1210. I'm sorry. A lot of debate about if you guess a 12 handle, do you make it happen? Yeah, that was my problem as well. I don't want to speak it to the vol gods, but c'est la vie. That's where we are, listeners. Your official market for next week: 1221 on the downside for Mark, 1340 on the upside for Matt, and of course the Goldilocks for me, aka the accurate one, 1260. All right, that's going to do it for us on the Vol Views side here, listeners. But before we go, let's go back around the horn. Mr. Matt, it was a pleasure having you back on Vol Views again. We'll have to do it again. We'll not wait 6 months or a year, whatever it's been since the last time. But before we go, sir, if folks want to check out what you and your newest child, Otto, are up to, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, come on over to orats.com. Email me, Matt at ORATS. Like I said, we have a bunch of new stuff coming. You could trade through Thinkorswim. You could trade through Tradier. And we're coming out with a backtest finder that's really killer. And, if I find, I'm going up to Maine. I'm looking for Andrew. So if I find him, we'll try to get in contact and try to get a live show going, Mark.
That would be cool. So we shall see. Crossing that state border, things can get dicey when you get in the lands of Maine. Meanwhile, listeners, it's never dicey if you want to check them out. Orats.com, ORATS.com, the place to go for all of Matt's great back tests, all the data we're talking about here, and a whole bunch more. Give him a follow on the old Twitter while you're at it as well, at OptionRats. All one word. Catchy handle. You can't forget it. A lot of great data coming out there as well. And Mr. Meatball, if they want to check out all of your vol musings, they have questions like SVIX puts versus VIX calls, all that other fun. Where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, come to optionpit.com. I write a daily post on what's going on in volatility. Yesterday, I've been telling people, hey, strangles and straddles are way too cheap on a daily basis because of all this option selling that's going on in 0DTE. You think the VIX is low. You know what the volatility is for Mondays? You want to know what the implied volatility is for Mondays options on a day that we've had a 40-point range? 7. 7.
I was going to say a 9. I thought that was
no. So, if you want some decent insight onto what's actually happening in volatility, come to optionpit.com, read my blog on VIX and volatility every single day. You will be a better trader for it.
Every day, optionpit.com is the place to go. We got to get on out of here. That's going to do it for us on the network today because all you pro folks, you already got your options oddities, a little bit of an early taste. Man, it's hard compiling all that data back to back for both of these shows early, but we got it done for you today because we love you pro folks out there. Don't want to leave you hanging. Of course, if you want to check out that show, everything else we have cooking, get access to the giveaways, the live, everything else we do. A lot of pro early releases. You folks are getting shows early that the rest of the network's not getting for days, if not weeks later out there as well. So a lot of cool stuff hitting the pro feed. Check it all out for yourselves. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. Or if you're cool, you want to check out /Secret Club. That'll get you there as well. It's going to do it for us. Have a great weekend out there. Go out there, see some friends, some family. Get away from your screens. We'll see you back here on Monday for our usual array of content all the way through to next Friday, another episode of Volatility Views. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.